Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt inside of Studio Beltway. I want to thank Mark Davis for sitting in for me yesterday when I was in Ohio, coming back from Ohio. We had a great event in Ohio with Bernie Moreno and many other of the key decision makers in the Buckeye State. I will tell you this before I get into last night's epic meltdown by Vice President Harris on CNN. If you are a Buckeye voter, you have to vote no on issue one. You're already turning out in droves for Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and Bernie Moreno and down-ticket things. But issue one is a nightmare. I'm going to write about it for Fox News. It is an epic, dark money, hard left attempt to craft onto the Ohio Constitution a Rube Goldberg scheme that guarantees a Democratic majority in a state that's a ruby red state. It's a trick. It's a trick. Vote no on issue one in Ohio. Now let's go to last night. Every time I think the vice president cannot possibly do worse on media than she has done, she does. Every time I think she's on the floor, she somehow falls off of the floor. She digs a basement and she falls into it. Don't believe me. Let's first go to the analysis provided by the CNN commentators of their own CNN town hall with Vice President Harris. Start with David Axelrod, of course, President Obama's brain, cut number one.
The things that would concern me is when she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city, and she did that on a couple of answers. One was on Israel. Anderson asked a direct question, would you be stronger on Israel than Trump? And there was a 7-minute answer, but none of it related to the question he was asking. And so, you know, on certain questions like that.
Right there. I mean, just stop. How hard is it to say, I'm going to stand by Israel every step of the way? It's not. She can't do it. She's not pro-Israel. I want you to understand that. She does not like the Jewish state. She will be the least supportive president of Israel since the state was founded in 1948, and there ain't any doubt about that. Listen to Jake Tapper talking again about Kamala Harris on CNN last night. The host last night was Anderson Cooper. I think Jake and even Dana scared her too much. Cut number three, Jake.
Anderson, thank you. You've been watching CNN's town hall with Vice President Kamala Harris and undecided voters less than 2 weeks from the election. A lot of tough questions for the vice president there. It seemed as though the voters were divided into three basic groups. Liberals who had not heard enough from her, progressives worried that she was not progressive enough, and Republicans who are wary of Donald Trump and wanting to hear more from the vice president. She focused a lot more on Donald Trump, I think it's fair to say, than she did on many specifics in terms of what she would do.
She doesn't have any specifics. It's 10 days or 2 weeks until the election, less, and she can't answer questions. Dana Bash comments, cut number two.
I'll just tell you what I'm hearing from people who I have been talking to, and that is that if her goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that. And, you know, some people have asked, is she being held to a different standard? Maybe, but that's maybe the world that she's living in. And on the question of
Come on. The standard is coherence. The standard is the ability to answer the question that's posed to you. Van Jones is a lot more blunt. Cut number four.
She passed that test. I think that the word salad stuff gets on my nerves. I think that some of the evasions are not necessary. But when she's talking
word
about
salad
trying to get
stuff
you
gets on my nerves, the evasions are not necessary. That is who she is. Daniel Dale, CNN's own precious fact checker, cut number five.
It is not true that Harris pledged in 2020 that she would not ban fracking as president. Her campaign has explained that she was referring to her comments in a VP debate with Mike Pence. But here's the thing about that debate. Nowhere in it did Harris say she had changed her own previous 2019 support for a fracking ban. What she did say in that debate twice was that Joe Biden, the head of the Democratic ticket at the time, would not ban fracking himself. I have the quotes here. She said, Joe Biden will not ban fracking, end quote. And then she said, quote, Joe Biden
You've
will
lost
not
Daniel Dale. You've really lost your ability to connect with your base because he is your base. Kamala Harris is falling in the polls. Now, I listened to Dwayne's World yesterday. Dwayne, are you there? I listened to the whole Dwayne's World with Jim Talent. Super episode. Enjoyed it immensely.
Thank you.
However, I am not being gun shy. I just realized that 2012 and 2016, I was wrong. In 2012, I thought Mitt was going to win.
Yep.
In 2016, I was certain Hillary was going to win.
Yep.
And I don't believe anything. I don't believe anyone knows anything. I know you were dealing with hard data. I haven't looked at the Ralston report from overnight in Nevada. I know the early numbers are good in North Carolina and Georgia. Listen to the whole thing. You're very persuasive. You are too upbeat. And even though last night was yet another fiasco nuclear bomb disaster for Kamala Harris, you're still too upbeat.
And here is, in my defense, here is why I remain so. The Real Clear Politics average today, right now, her lead is down to 0.2. The only reason it's at 0.2 is because of a Quinnipiac poll that dropped yesterday showing her up 4 to weight the average. The problem with the Q poll is its sample base is a D+6 sample.
Okay, again, I'm just saying to everyone out there, nobody knows. Kamala Harris last night gets asked about why does the economy suck and why do I feel so bad about where I am and my real wages have gone down, inflation's been bad. She goes on a 3-minute rambling. It's like Ramblin' Rose. If I had a producer, I would go out with Ramblin' Rose because that should be her theme song. Here's what happens at the end of that cut number 6.
I bring a whole set of different experiences to this job and the way I think about it than Joe Biden.
Some voters, though, might ask, you've been in the White House for 4 years, you were vice president, not the president, but why wasn't any of that done for the last 4 years?
Well, there was a lot that was done, but there's more to do, Anderson. And I'm pointing out things that need to be done, that haven't been done, but need to be done. And I'm not going to shy away from saying, hey, these are still problems that we need to fix.
Yeah, word salad. Let's go further down to cut number 7. Anderson Cooper presses her on the price gouging nonsense. Cut number 7.
These are times of crisis. I get that. How does that help, though, someone like Eric with prices that for years the grocery prices just been high?
Well, first of all, Anderson, as you know, and obviously CNN has been covering extensively what has been happening in the state of Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. It's a real issue. I was Attorney General of California. I was the top law enforcement officer of the biggest state in the country. I took this issue on because it affects a lot of people. And I'm not going to apologize.
That's a non-responsive answer, Your Honor. She can't direct the witness to answer the question. Cut number 9 is about the cost of illegal immigration. Cut number 9.
I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes.
Wrong. That was the all-purpose. I can't answer you because I don't know anything. Cut number 8 is the cost of migration.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society safely? What benefits and subsidies will you provide them with, and how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies, and if so, how much money will be allocated?
Well, thank you, Jackson. Let's start with this. America's immigration system is broken, and it needs to be fixed, and it's been broken for a long time. And part of what we need to do is always prioritize what we need to do to strengthen our border. I will tell you I'm the only person in this race among the two choices that voters have. I've personally prosecuted transnational criminal organizations in the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career making sure that our border is secure and that we do not allow criminals in and we don't allow that kind of trafficking to happen and come into our country. And
how many times can you screech fingernails on a blackboard without falling over? I wasn't in any green room around Washington, but I know what was going on. The commentators were all putting their head in their hands saying, my gosh, how are we not going to sound like part of the Trump campaign when we go on? Because she's just that bad. Kamala Harris is Ramblin' Rose. My gosh, what a disaster that CNN town hall. After the Hallie Jackson interview on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, the Wednesday night CNN town hall got worse. I don't think she should just go underground. And she's called Donald Trump fascist 400 times now, and it doesn't move her numbers. It makes Donald Trump's numbers get better because everyone knows he's not a fascist, doesn't want to be a fascist. I do want to update you on the Nevada early voting because John Ralston is not anything like a Republican. He basically defeated Adam Laxalt single-handedly, plus a snowstorm. And so John Ralston, but he does have to admit reality, right? So last night he posts, new numbers just dropped. This is 6 hours ago. Republicans won early in-person voting in Nevada, again by 2-1, picking up 8,000 ballots. About 400,000 people have voted in Nevada, and with mail. GOP statewide lead, almost 20,000 ballots. And here's the killer, quote, unheard of at this point in any other presidential cycle. Why? Well, maybe because Kamala Harris is so very, very bad. Listen to her on cut number 16 being asked about the border when she raised her hand about decriminalizing crossing the border illegally. Cut number 16.
I mean, you did raise your hand saying in a debate when asked if border crossing should be decriminalized, but obviously that is not your position.
I never intended, nor will I ever allow America to have a border that is not secure. I believe we need to deal with illegal immigration. There needs to be consequences, which is why part of my plan that I have outlined, and again, please go to Kamala.
Blah, 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 blah. Cut number 17. She has no answer. Let's go to cut number 17 about Latino men who apparently are not voting for her in droves.
So, for example, part of the agenda that I've rolled out that I am very aware how it would affect Latino men, for example, includes what we need to do around building a strong economy that supports working people. Mm-hmm. Understanding that, for example, small business people, small business owners don't always have access to the capital they need to grow their business or even for people to start a small business. And I know that Latino men often have a more difficult time having access to the big loans from the big banks because of relationships, because of things that are not necessarily grounded in their qualification. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'm focused on what we can do to bring more capital to community banks that will understand the community and being able to give those kinds of loans.
That was actually not from the CNN town hall, but it was so awful we had to play it for you. That was Bob Casa talking to her. Cut number 18, back to the CNN town hall talking about Israel and Palestine.
My question is, as president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So I will say, and I think this is to your point, far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And we are now at a place where with Sinwar's death, I do believe we have an opportunity to end this war, bring the hostages home, bring relief to the Palestinian people, and work toward a two-state solution where Israel and the Palestinians...
It's so bad. Your Honor, direct the witness to answer the question. No, I'm not going to cut off Israel's arms, or yes, I am going to cut off Israel's arms. Either way, she's going to lose votes, so she just word salads along. I can't stand it. I really can't. I've got to save some for Selena Zito. She's so awful as a communicator. And I believe that reflects a growing insecurity on her part about the basic minimum skills you need to be president. Welcome back, America. Hugh Hewitt. On Thursday, going to Philadelphia tonight, where I'll be appearing with Larry Elder, Mike Gallagher, Chris DeGaulle, doing what we can to get turnout up and going in the right direction in the Philadelphia collar counties. And it does look good. Dave McCormick is campaigning across the state. I cannot tell you how much energy Bernie Moreno had in that room. And 1,000 people outside of Columbus on Tuesday night. And I want to thank Mark Davis for sitting in for me yesterday. Generalissimo is going to take the first 2 hours tomorrow, and then I'll be back for all of next week. And, of course, Monday and Tuesday of election week and all of election week. I won't miss a moment. I want to tell you this. I don't know if you're holding on to the hope that there's a real Kamala Harris in there somewhere and that somehow the questions from NBC, CBS, ABC, and now CNN have been unfair. But, you know, you really can't. You just can't vote for her expecting the country to do well in the next 4 years. As she talked about her vagueness last night, play cut number 9 again, please.
So I may not be quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes because I'm going to want to research it. I'm going to want to study it. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, I confess.
I don't think it's about being a nerd. Nerds know how to answer at length about a whole bunch of things. Ask me any question, and I'll give you two coherent answers, A or B, and you can pick one. And it doesn't mean I prepared it all. It just means I have a peculiar facility with words. I don't expect her to be a talk show host or a journalist or a broadcaster or a newsreader, as they call them in Great Britain. I expect her to be coherent. Listen again. This is a question from the audience about about the cost of illegal migration. I got to find exactly where it is. It's the worst moment of it, where a young person, she's doing terrible with college kids. Cut number 13. It's a young person, if you're not watching on the Salem News Channel, maybe 21, college student. Cut number 13.
My question is this. If you could accomplish
Nope, that's the wrong one. That's a college professor. I want the kid who's asking about the cost of migration.
That's cut 11, wasn't it?
Cut number 8. Cut number 8.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society safely? What benefits and subsidies will you provide them with, and how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
Stop.
Well,
this is very direct. How much am I going to pay? How are we going to pay for it? What's it going to cost? Okay, here's her answer.
So I may not be quick to have the...
Regarding the
whole thing again.
American society safely, what benefits and subsidies will you provide them with, and how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the American citizens' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
Well, thank you, Jackson. Let's start with this. America's immigration system is broken, and it needs to be fixed. And it's been broken for a long time.
Answer, she never answered. Jackson, thank you very much. I know you've asked a very specific question about how much it's going to cost and whether or not we're going to pay for it. Let's not answer that question. I'll talk for a minute. 56. There's another incredibly awkward exchange, this time with Anderson Cooper, no enemy of Kamala Harris, probably going to vote for her like I voted for Trump. Cut number 11.
Under Donald Trump, you criticized the wall more than 50 times. You called it stupid, useless, and a medieval vanity project. Is a border wall stupid?
Well, let's talk about Donald Trump and that border wall. So remember, Donald Trump said Mexico would pay for it? Come on, they didn't. How much of that wall did he build? I think the last number I saw is about 2%. And then when it came time for him to do a photo op, you know where he did it? In the part of the wall that President Obama built.
But you're agreeing to a bill that would earmark $650 million to continue building that wall.
I pledge that I am going to bring forward that bipartisan bill to further strengthen and secure our border. Yes, I am. And I'm going to work across the aisle to pass a comprehensive bill that deals with a broken immigration system. I think Jackson's question, part of it was to acknowledge that America has always had migration, but there needs to be a legal process for it. People have to earn it. And that's the point that I think is the most important point that can be made, which is we need a president who is grounded in common sense and practical outcomes. Like, let's just fix this thing. Let's just fix it. Why is there any ideological perspective on this? Let's just fix the problem.
To fix the problem, you're doing this compromise bill. It does call for $650 million that was earmarked under Trump to actually still go to build the wall.
I am not afraid of good ideas where they occur.
So you don't think it's stupid anymore?
I think what he did and how he did it did not make much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything.
But you do want to build some wall.
I want to strengthen our border.
She can't answer a question. It's as though there's a fundamental, like Hal, the computer in Space Odyssey 2001, not letting the
I can't do that, Dave.
I can't do that, Dave. And I can't answer that, Anderson. And let me tell you what Jackson didn't ask and how I didn't answer what he didn't ask. Gosh, it's awful I don't know how many people watch this because I think people have made up their minds and they've locked in. And I'm hurting you. I'm torturing you. And I'm sorry, but I've got to keep going. Here is the college professor. They let in a college professor to represent all those college professors out there, 0.001% of the country like
those
me.
Undecided college professors.
Undecided college professor, cut number 13.
My question is this. If you could accomplish only one major policy goal that required congressional action, what would it be and why?
Well, there's not just one. I have to be honest with you, Carol. There's a lot of work that needs to happen, but I think that maybe part of this point that how I think about it is we've got to get past this era of politics and partisan politics, slowing down what we need to do in terms of progress in our country. And that means working across the aisle. I've done that before. We did it around whether it be what we were able to accomplish with the bipartisan infrastructure deal or some of the work that we have done in terms of dealing with gun safety. But we've got to work across the aisle, and it is my commitment to work with Democrats, with Republicans, with independents to deal with a number of issues, whether it be what we need to do in terms of housing and creating legislation that creates incentives for that, what we need to do to reinstate the freedom of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do, whether it be what we need to do to actually invest in a substantial way in the industries of the future, in American-based manufacturing, in American-based industries where American workers and union workers have those jobs in a way that is good-paying jobs that gives people the dignity they deserve. All of those areas I plan on working across the aisle and with Congress, including the issue of immigration, which we've got to fix.
All right, so a college professor says, will you tell me one thing that you will work with on, one thing that you will get done, one policy? And she rambles for a minute and a half and doesn't answer the question. That college professor would flunk her, and I would ask my law student to prepare for class next time, as opposed to what they just did. And she's incoherent. You know it. I know it. Everyone who watched that last night. Or Hallie Jackson. Yeah, I was listening to John Podhoretz. John does not like Donald Trump. Not a secret. Does not like Donald Trump. But I listen to the commentary podcast. In fact, I don't know if anybody on that podcast likes Donald Trump, but they're very informed, and I think they are grudgingly. I'm not certain of this. I have no grounds. I think they're all going to vote for Donald Trump because of Israel, at least. He will stand with Israel, unlike Kamala Harris. But my goodness, if you have decided to stay home, don't stay home. Don't stay home. Go vote for Donald Trump, because we can't allow anyone even to do well who won't answer questions. Cut number 15. This is kind of sad.
Vice President, everybody as human beings, we're not perfect. We have our flaws. We make mistakes. We have our weaknesses. And the office of the presidency can sometimes bring those weaknesses out in ways that the incumbent may not expect. What weaknesses do you bring to the table, and how do you plan to overcome them while you're in office?
That's a great question, Joe. Well, I am certainly not perfect, so let's start there. And I think that perhaps a weakness, some would say, but I actually think it's a strength, is I really do value having a team of very smart people around me who bring to my decision-making process different perspectives. My team will tell you I am constantly saying, let's kick the tire on that. Let's kick the tires on it. Because, as I mentioned earlier, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a courtroom prosecutor. I've tried everything from
It gets worse. Stop. I'm sorry, America. I'm sorry. You didn't watch it on purpose, but I'm inflicting it on you. She was horrific. She was worse than she has been. I believe she comes into every interview aware of the fact that she's failing to reach any constituency, much less those that she needs to motivate dramatically. But I want to close with 18 and 19, and then I'm going to move on. It was such a disastrous thing. Cut number 18, I just want to make sure people hear this, because if you're a supporter of Israel, whether you're a Jewish American or a non-Jewish American like me, I'm a big Zionist, but I'm not Jewish. cut number 18.
My question is, as president, what would you do to ensure not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars?
So I will say, and I think this is to your point, far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed. It's unconscionable. And we are now at a place where
Doesn't end up. She goes on forever. Just stop. I just want you to hear the question. Instead of saying, we're going to stand with Israel, and it's very unfortunate that civilians die in war, and Hamas ought not to have started that war, but Iran is the problem. We'll take care of Iran. It's not that hard to answer, but she can't because she's afraid of offending Arab American voters who aren't voting for her anyway in Michigan. One last one. It's short. Cut number 19.
Let me ask you, you've talked about codifying Roe v. Wade. That would obviously require 60 votes in the Senate, a majority of the House. That's a big leap. We don't have that yet. If that's not possible to codify it in the House, what do you do?
I think we need to take a look at the filibuster, to be honest with you. But the reality of it is this. Let's talk about how we got here.
Let's not talk about how we got here. Let's talk about why you want to break the filibuster, how you break the filibuster without breaking the rules. And if you break the filibuster, what that means, which is massive instability in the rule of law, the packing of the court, abortion on demand through the nth and 9th month. It's a disaster for the country if the filibuster goes away. But you couldn't even say